It's another side that like wants to take more, but wants to go that one more round. Because like going that one more round when you don't think you can, that's what makes all the difference in your life. You know what I mean?
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of One More Round, the Rocky Series podcast. Kyle is coming. He's just going to pop in a little bit late, so we're going to get started without him, but he's going to pop in. But I have with me right now somebody who's not quite as pretty as Katie, but just as intelligent. I'm sorry, Jared. I'm sorry. But just as intelligent, Jared, he wrote it out for me. Jared, why would you write out your podcast for me?
Because you are physically incapable of saying it correctly.
Wow. Fine. I'll read it out. It says, Jared, you are the host of the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century. Did I do it like you? I try to do it like you.
Yeah, that sounded great. Great job, Ryan.
Thank you. Of course, Jared has guest hosted on this podcast already before. He's also co-hosted with me when we've covered a couple of Burt Reynolds movies, and we are going to be doing in late spring, early summer, the latest, we're going to do the sequel to the episode of, what was the name of that episode anyways that we did? White Lightning.
White Lightning, yeah.
So we're going to cover the sequel, which is Gator. It's part 2 to White Lightning. Okay, we're going to talk about that one. All right, and Kyle's entered. Kyle, how you doing, brother?
Sorry I'm late, guys.
Oh, that's fine. That's all good, brother. It's all good. Now, you two have met, of course, right?
Yeah, we did a show together.
That's what I thought. In this little universe of podcasting I've created, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I like the connections that people have made through this podcasting family. It's nice to see that people like yourselves have met each other. And we'd like to welcome everyone who's watching us live right now via Instagram or on Twitter. And I also want to say, excuse my voice. I do apologize. I'm just getting over a cold. I feel better, but the voice sounds worse than I feel. It's in that stage where the voice sounds, you've been coughing for like a week and a half. And now the voice is like, hey, thanks for destroying my larynx.
Where you have your sexy podcast voice.
Oh, no, man, it's not as sexy as yours, Jared.
Deep and rich.
I think we had the same cold, man. I'm just getting over a cold too. It's the same thing. Okay. I'm gonna have to mute my mic because I'm like coughing. I'm in that coughing stage now, which I have a feeling the listeners probably don't want to hear.
Well, if you both go mute, then I'll do the best I can.
Because I now have allergies. I get seasonal allergies. So I went from the cold to the allergy. Okay. People don't care about that kind of stuff. They're like, shut up, guys. Get to the show. We've got a couple emails here, and I'd like to read those first. So here we go. This is, of course, from Michael, who hosts the Screeners podcast. He says, hi, Ryan, Katie, and Kyle. How y'all doing? Oh, sorry. We should say Jared. I forgot. Okay. So, Jared, the reason why Jared's here and not Katie is Katie, surprise, surprise, is taking another vacation. She's on another vacation. She's in Iceland, I think. Isn't that right, Kyle?
Yes, that's right.
Wow, that lady.
That's something else.
I know. I don't go anywhere.
She's not Carmen San Diego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So back to the email. He goes on to say, a great point about the size of the ring. A casual watch, you didn't notice how short it is. I guess in the story with the theater stage, they needed it short for people to see as opposed to an arena where it needs to be raised. Okay. So the guy in the crowd that yells out, why don't you land him on his head? Did you listen to that last episode, Jared, by the way? I'm not sure if you did or didn't.
I think I'm one behind.
Okay. There was a line that somebody from the crowd shouts out to Apollo, tells Apollo to land on Drago's head. It's a weird statement.
When does he say this?
It's in the original cut, and it's actually captioned too. So it was caught enough that the caption people says, we better throw that into the captions.
Is this during the intro or the fight?
When they're facing each other in the ring, getting the rules from Lou Filippo. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So the line was, why don't you land him on his head? So Michael goes on to say, maybe it's a roundabout way the fan is saying for Apollo to knock Drago out. Sure, it'd be easier just to say knock him out or knock his head off, but I guess Sly wanted a creative way for a fan to say it.
Just an extra said it, and they kept it in there.
That's what I was going to say. Was that really written, or did the extra yell loud enough to catch the boom mic, or was this post-production? Yeah. Michael goes on to say, I agree that the fight between Apollo and Drago is a lot more competitive in the director's cut than the theatrical cut. So he's team us there, Kyle. Sorry, Katie. I feel like Sly wanted to make it feel a little less lopsided a fight overall. Yeah, that's the way I should have said it. Yes, it didn't feel so lopsided. That's what I was trying to get at. That's the right word. Yes, the stare down between Rocky and Drago after round 1 does happen to both cuts. Okay, but the director's cut has an extended look and takes out another shot of Lamilla taking a puff from Nikolai's cigarette.
But that's not the only thing she takes puffs from.
Oh, my
theory that her and Nikolai are an item. That she's sleeping her way to the top.
Honestly, that is valid. Yes.
Yeah.
She definitely seeks power, Lamilla. Michael goes on to say, I will say that the paramedics and fight doctors in the Rocky verse are really bad about getting on the scene in emergencies. We saw it in Rocky 3 with the huge delay in treating Mickey, and we see it here in the ring with Apollo. One could argue it's even worse with Apollo because we never see any paramedics or doctors rush on the stage when it's a clear emergency situation. As far as whether Apollo died in the ring or in the hospital, if the paramedics had gotten to the ring, I think Apollo at least makes it to the hospital alive, but as it stands, Michael feels that Apollo dies in the ring. Keep up the great work, Michael. Again, from the Screen Nerds podcast. Jared, what are your feelings? Do you think Apollo died in the ring or at the hospital later?
I would say later. I think later.
Okay. It's pretty gruesome to think if Rocky was holding a corpse at that point, but it's possible. It's possible. Yeah. But I like to think he had head trauma, right? And his brain was swelling and all that stuff, but he would die at the hospital type of thing. That's kind of how I envisioned it too. Okay, the next email. This is from Donald, one of our faithful listeners. He goes, Dear Ryan, Kyle, and Katie, great job as always on another great season of One More Round. The alternating between the theatrical and director's cut, which will continue today, folks, I'm sorry, of Rocky 4 has been harder work than usual, and I want you guys to know that it's appreciated. I hope Sly gives us more director's cut in the future. They not only keep Rocky around longer, but your show as well. Oh, yeah. I guess it is making our seasons longer.
Yeah. Looks like you're going to have to do that with Balboa, too, coming up.
Yes, sir. The Rocky Balboa DVD cut, I'm going to buy the DVD. That is the cut we're going to watch. Because if it's what I hope it is, it's just those deleted scenes that are very good inserted into the final film. I hope that's what's done. Well, I know there's an extended Paulie scene in the alleyway. That's one of the cuts. Okay. So he goes on to bring on some stuff from the novel, which I'll like. I won't read the whole thing because he goes into great detail regarding the Apollo being trained by Rocky, which is quite fascinating to read, Donald, but just for the sake of time, I won't read the whole thing. But in the novelization, they go into great detail overall about Rocky training Apollo, and it's done like seriously. So at least according to the novel, the training that Apollo receives from Rocky and how Apollo took the training was taken seriously, which would lead into his fight a la the director's cut is a better version of, because it represents the novel, because he put up a better fight, right? But here's some interesting things. The novel confirms that Rocky takes the title from Apollo in 1976. The maid's name who comes out to tell Rocky that Apollo's on the phone, her name was Mrs. Tullio. The odds were, Kylie, like this, the odds were 2-1 in Apollo's favor for the Drago fight.
Wow. You know what? That makes sense, actually, because like odds makers had like almost no info on Drago.
Sure.
They would have had some amateur stuff, but there's probably the Soviet trading and all the Soviet information would be pretty opaque.
Donna goes on to say, Ryan will be happy to hear this, that there is a scene between Adrian and Marianne in the novel. Marianne is worried about Apollo getting in the ring again, but does not express it out loud. Adrian comforts her. The wives of boxers share an unspoken bond. Here's interesting. Drago met Lamilla when they were training together in the 1980 Olympics. Drago was instructed to maim. It's unclear if this meant kill or just injure Apollo, but it confirms that Drago was trying to do something bad.
I never thought Drago tried to kill Apollo. I just thought Drago went full steam and Apollo just died as a result of that because Drago's just so powerful.
Agreed.
I would say any fan of the Rocky movies should seek out those old novelizations. They're not that easy to come by. There's this YouTube channel called Audiobooks for the Damned, and it's just normal people reading the books.
Normal people?
Well, you know, like no-name people. They're
like voice actors. Yeah,
exactly.
They're not professional.
It'd be like me reading. They have all 4 of the Rocky novelizations that were written on that website. If you ever were curious and just wanted to see what those books were like. Audiobooks for the Damned.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's a good plug. It's funny. It just goes to show you, I've heard some of those quote-unquote non-professionals read audiobooks. It makes you appreciate how good the ones that get paid on Audible and stuff do for the reading. you can kind of sense the difference between those who have professional producers and those who are just they're doing their best, but it just goes to show you the production value that an actual professional reader does.
Yeah,
absolutely. In the proper booth. Jared, do you believe Sly truly wrote the novels, or did a ghostwriter novelize his story?
I think he might have written Rocky 2. It is a book that's written in the first person. He's speaking the whole book in the first person, excluding the scenes where it cuts away and Rocky isn't present. Those are written in third person. But I think he probably did write that novel. By 1985, I can't imagine he was putting in the time to write a book like that.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. All right. And we're going to move on to trivia. So, Katie, I know she'll be listening to this episode after her vacation. Jared is going to be playing for you. So, Jared, please bomb it as much as you want.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got to take a dive, buddy.
I'll go down in the second.
Yeah, we need you to take a dive. Here we go. What song is Paulie listening to at the house in Russia? So, remember, he's sitting in that little house in Russia? Okay. What song was he listening to? I know the quote unquote artist, but I don't.
Yeah, shit. That's all I know too, actually.
Okay, well, that might. I'm sure.
Oh, actually, I think I know the name of it.
Oh, do you? Okay, well, I'm sure it's name and artist. I just assume it's name and artist. Jared, you good? You got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh boy, look, he looks confident. I don't like this. He didn't even blink when I gave the question. Jared didn't even blink. He's like, okay, yeah, next question, go. This is
I don't answer now, do I?
No, but I mean, I can just tell by your facial expression. Yeah. You were good to go.
Oh, I know the answer.
We generally write them down because
I believe you, Jared. You don't have to. I don't write mine down because I'm reading, but only because I'm reading. And
I'll keep it on my notepad here.
Oh, sure. Okay, by we I mean I write them down, and I just assumed everyone else did it too. But I guess
no. Katie does too. Katie does too. There, Kyle. Yeah. Who says, "quote Don't go too fast, or you're going to get out of focus." What color are Drago's gloves for the fight against Apollo? True or false? Rocky picks up and throws Drago after one of the rounds when they were fighting.
Wait, after one of the rounds? That's what that says?
Yeah, so maybe he's just saying that maybe the bell rang. I'm not too sure. So this is true or false. So I'm just going to go with did he throw him, yes or no. But I don't know if the key part is after one of the rounds, because it might be before one of the rounds. This is where it's a little bit. Remember, it was a 10-year-old Rocco who wrote these questions. So
honestly, I have to reiterate, I'm like so impressed by him in this book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No kidding.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Like a 10-year-old, anyone producing this book's good, but especially a 10-year-old. Like that's pretty. Like props to him.
There is another question here, but we're going to save it for when Katie comes back, Kyle, and I'll explain later. So we'll move on to the next one. What did Paulie want for his birthday? Okay, I got that one. Oh boy. Okay, so yes, we'll share our answers at the end of the episode. Jared will be playing for Katie. I feel like Jared is feeling very confident over there. He didn't sweat. He didn't groan. He didn't do anything. I don't like that. Do you not like that at all?
Here's all I have to say. You will lose.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, well here we go, folks. We're going to go into the original cut. Jared, have you seen the director's cut? I should have asked that first. Sorry.
Yes, I own it on 4K. Yeah, man, I got the 4K Steelbook, buddy.
Oh boy,
I don't mess around.
I own it as well. I don't think it's 4K. It's just the Apple version. So we're going to show the original cut. We'll of course just talk about what we see, but we're going to do. I think it's a funeral right away. And Kyle, who has not seen the director's cut, Kyle, you will be blown away by the difference.
Oh man,
it's crazy different, and we'll talk about that.
Tony Burton,
Yeah.
treasure. We
can say, hey, which version should they have kept? Okay, so here's the original version. Of course, in the original cut, they stare at each other, but in the director's cut, Rocky just looks at Apollo as he holds him. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, I know we discussed this on the original one, Going the Distance podcast, but Jared, I wouldn't mind hearing your thoughts because you weren't a part of that. Why are those men on the right blurred out? Do we know? Has that been established yet? See those men on the right? They're blurred out.
Yeah.
What I've heard from some people is, you see this statue in the front?
Yeah.
It's not really there. So
that looks like an optical element they've added.
Yeah, so it's weird that those two men, I assume they're men in suits, almost 2.5 men. Hey, 2.5 men. It's Charlie Sheen and Andy Cryer and that little kid. They're cut out there. Now, this statue that's in the front, I can't even make out. Is there a head to the statue? Oh, there it is. Yeah. Okay. So we all see the statue. I think it's Christ. It's a Christ statue.
Yeah.
Now there's a Christ statue in the front, but that statue is not there at the funeral. It was early CGI superimposed. So I'm wondering if when they put this Christ statue in the front, did it blur out the men behind it by accident or something?
No, it looks like he's actively trying to block a whole section of people there.
I agree. It looks weirdly. Why is that part blurred out? Because there's a statue there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had somebody tell me it's called something like I forget what it's called. I think it's DI something, diapholar or dipolar or some sort of lens issue or something.
I know what you're talking about, but that's not what this is.
Why are they blurred out then? I think it looks intentional.
I have never noticed this before.
Oh, okay.
Watching this movie since 1985.
Oh, okay.
Well, obviously, he doesn't want these people in the movie, or I don't know, maybe they wanted more money than background extras usually get, and he's just like, screw it, I'm going to take you out of the film.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's my thoughts. Like, I have no idea, but that's what I was thinking. Just some legal shit where it's like,
yeah,
they didn't sign something they were supposed to sign, and then they held out for more money, and he's like, F you. He'd be right, because, like, I just noticed this too, and I've seen this movie God knows how many times, right? Like, everything's moving fast. Like, we've paused on it, but who would have paused this?
And I know what you're talking about, Ryan, with the lens thing, but this is too... When that happens, it's more messy than this. This is intentional. Okay. There's a hard line there.
No, I agree. I'm with you. You can almost see the square line above the head there. It's like a weird square. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a barbaric type of almost like clear tape was put over it almost over the film.
Of course, today these people would just be digitally erased, but back then that was not possible.
Now you'll notice this cut here too, which is odd. We'll never see Paulie. There's Tony, but I don't think we see Paulie anywhere, even when you pause it. Now, keep your eye out, see if we see Paulie in this. Keep that in mind in this funeral, because that's the original joke, was that Paulie wasn't at Apollo's funeral. But that's not true.
There's a lot I could say about this man. I don't know if it matters now. I guess what matters is what he stood for, what he lived for, and what he died for. You always did everything the way you wanted, and I didn't understand that, but now I understand.
I love that. I don't know about that piano music in the background. It's not. Yeah, it's an odd musical choice. This little lighthearted.
I think this whole score is an odd musical choice, personally.
Oh, really? For the whole film or for the scene?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm used to it, but I don't know. Vince DiCola was. I guess Bill Conti wasn't available. So,
did you hear my interview with both Bill Conti and Vince?
I heard Bill Conti, not Vince.
Oh, you should check it out. I asked him straight up about that, about why he was chosen over this. Though I will argue Vince's soundtrack, there's some key parts where I don't think Bill would have captured, i.e., just that whole menacing of the Drago when he enters the
Drago music's great. That's one of the things I like about the director's cut is the reinsertion of Bill Conti.
Yep, fair enough, and that we're going to get that with the director's cut coming up here with the funeral scene. It's more, the soundtrack is way better for the director's cut for sure.
Sly's speeches to me make no sense. It feels like it's just words that someone like, it's almost like AI wrote it or something. I don't know. I think AI would do better, but what he stood for, what he lived for, what he died for, you always did things your way, and now I understand. Like, what? What's the message you're trying to send?
When you listen to this line for line, beat for beat, we got a dead friend in the casket here because he wanted to fight a fight that he wasn't prepared to fight, and a careless decision that it cost him his life. I don't understand what Rocky's understanding. Okay, now I get it. Cool,
now I get it. I get that you couldn't deal with being retired and you missed the spotlight and wanted to be famous again. I get it now, Apollo.
Yeah, it's almost like endorsing that. Like, that's a good idea. In the first part, it makes it sound like he's like a martyr, that he died for the cause or something like that. And you could argue Apollo had some form of patriotism, which is fair enough. To me, at least, Apollo is fighting for him. And the patriotism is secondary to that, even though it's still there.
It's his justification for it.
Yeah, like, it's not like he took some principled stand and died for it. Like, it's bizarre. Not a fan. And it's funny because in the Creed films, they say that Marianne really liked his speech at the funeral. I was like, why?
Maybe she saw the director's cut.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that's right.
And then she just saw Tony's speech, quite frankly, not Rocky's speech. Yeah, I think we're led to believe maybe the callback is to when Apollo told Rocky, the warrior may as well be dead, which seems like a metaphorical statement, not maybe a literal one. So maybe Rocky's taking it literally. Well, I understand now, Apollo, you're dead now, so now I understand. So,
the last part is you did things your way, now I understand. I interpret that, if I'm going to be charitable, is to say that Apollo lived authentically his whole life. That he did what he wanted to do, and he wasn't just doing it for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Even though his life was short, he lived the way he wanted to live his whole life, which is not what a lot of people could say.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah. Sorry, Louise just chimed in. They should all hate Rocky this moment. Throw the damn towel. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, that is kind of odd too that Rocky's giving this. I guess other people, if you like, Tony is going to give a speech too, and Rocky and Apollo are friends, but it's not like they were lifelong bros or anything either.
Yeah.
Like I guess I don't know.
Based on what timeline you follow, they
that's
buddies
right.
for like 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
I know they had a bonding moment on the beach, and that's all I really know about these guys. It's odd. Tony, he was like a son to me. I raised him. It's like, okay, Rocky, you've got the eulogy. Cool. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Like now I understand for what you guys are saying. Tony gives a speech in the director's cut, which makes way more sense. Tony should be the one, or a family member of Apollo. But since it's a film, you can't have a family member you've never seen before give a eulogy, but Tony would be the logical choice.
This is where I give some credit to the movie and other movies, or in general, is there's things that have happened in the universe that we, the viewer, aren't seeing. So yes, Tony just gave the speech and all this stuff. So it's just Rocky's giving the final one is all, but Rocky spoke, Marianne spoke, who knows who else spoke? It's just, we're only seeing his speech. That's how I would argue for the film cut.
Now, I don't mean to go backwards, but do we see Apollo's parents at this funeral?
You see some older people sitting right up front, and I've always assumed those are Apollo's parents.
Yeah. Creed Sr., yeah, for sure.
I'll never forget you, Apollo.
Did Rocky ever say the words Apollo Creed in the 5th or 6th film? I'm just trying to remember now, to be honest with you.
He talked about Apollo and Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, like when he's telling stories in his restaurant. Like,
the restaurant. Okay.
Apollo was beating on me. Tommy Gunn says, ever since your first fight with Apollo Creed.
Oh, that's right.
You could argue, too, that he just doesn't want to talk about it. Like, he's not bringing it up all the time either. It was just fair enough. Plus, a lot of time would have gone by. 20 years would have gone by since Creed died when Rocky Balboa.
I know. He said I would never forget you. Not that I would speak about you every day. I know.
Yeah.
Now, this part I never understood. He puts the belt on the casket. Now, that is the championship belt, right?
Yeah.
It could be like a replica or something. Pretty sure that champions, even when they lose their title, have like a version of the belt they still have. For instance, there's a news report where like Mike Tyson, you could see him with all his belts, and this is like way after he lost his title. And he's like, these mean nothing to me anymore. And he like throws them in the trash.
Huh?
Like, those aren't the current belts that are being handed around, right? Like they're just, I think when you become champion, you get.
I know.
Do they give you a new one when you become champ?
Yes, something like that. Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But I just wonder, in this film, are we led to believe he's giving the belt? Like, is that the belt that Rocky carried, so to speak? And
is Rocky burying his belt?
I think we're led to believe that is the case. It's very poetic. Yeah. Or it's just placed there, and then when they bury the casket, they take the belt off.
Yeah.
Maybe.
He's the best.
And the slow motion walk away, you're the best. There's the heavyweight championship belt. So that's the original cut funeral scene, and now they're cutting right to the press conference. Now let's go to the director's cut. So even on this cut, there's the blur.
Why?
I don't know. It's interesting.
This is well into the 2020s. He could have easily fixed that.
Maybe it's like an FU to those guys who, like, if he wanted them out of there.
Yeah, you still blurred out. Look at
Apollo Creed was a warrior, and he lived and he died by the code of the warrior. The warrior has the right to choose his way of life and his way of death. And we are bound to respect this sacred.
There's Paulie
and
Adrian. So there you go. Like, already this speech is way better than Rocky's speech.
Okay, I got to mention something. This is timeline related, which is really beating on a dead horse here. You see Apollo's children in Rocky 2, and they look roughly the same age as they do here. However you slice that, however long you want to say is gone by, that doesn't make any sense. Use older kids. Come on, guys. Whoever made this decision, this is not hard.
They couldn't get Rocky's kid age right. You think they're going to Paul's kid's ages right?
You know, they are sitting down. Maybe they're like 7 feet tall or something. You don't know.
There's no way to make any of these films make sense in any logical way regarding time with the evidence they give you as well. Like on
we don't see
evidence.
those kids in the theatrical cut.
That's right. Those kids are shown in this cut. So it's kind of cool. In the director's cut, we got the kids, and Rocky 2, we got the kids. We got the kids talked about in Creed Part 3, but I was really hoping we get some. At least they were mentioned, at least. Okay.
In this life we live, there's always the possibility of holy intrusion. And so it was that Apollo came to know that none of his successes had come close to satisfying the questions he had inside. He gave his life to know those answers.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
From my perspective as a dad with young kids, I am offended by this speech. He's talking about the code of the warrior,
right?
And how he can choose the way he lives and dies, and we're bound to respect that sacred right. And then it pans to these kids who no longer have a father. What about your code as a dad, being there for your kids? What code of the warrior? You're a boxer. Like, this isn't, you're not a samurai in Japan. Like, what the are you talking about? This is insane. I know boxers can consider themselves warriors, but this is taking it too far for me. Just to talk on him, us having to respect those things, and then these kids have to listen to that bothers me.
Well, the warrior may as well be dead, Stallion.
Yeah, may as well those kids and not having a dad growing up. God. Sorry, I'm a little salty about this, but...
Sure. Well, this is why we're here. We're to voice our opinions on the things we see, Jared.
You know, I'm not entirely disagreeing with Kyle, but I would listen to Tony Burton read the phone book. I think he's a good orator. He can say these things, whether you agree with them or not, they seem to carry some weight. I think it's good he was given a scene in the director's cut to talk at the funeral. Whether he's spewing nonsense or not is certainly debatable. You know, I'm glad that they included him here.
I agree with you that Tony, when he speaks, I listen.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't have a ton of lines in these films, but I'd say he does a great job with all of his lines. Even though I'm offended by his speech, I still kind of preferred it to Rocky's, because Rocky's was just like a word salad that didn't mean anything.
Just unrelated sentences.
Tony's speech, whether I agree with it or not, I understood what he's saying. He sent a message received. That's good. And Rocky is just kind of like, if like the aliens are visiting Earth and they're like, okay, we have to, like, our robot we're sending to infiltrate humans has to speak at a funeral. What's it going to say? Let's put this in. And then.
No, I agree. But I will agree also with Luis here, where he liked the speech at the beginning, but he lost me at the end. I got lost at the end too. It sounded poetic, but I was like, I know it's English, Tony, but I'm not too sure what you're saying. Yeah, so there you go. I like Tony's speech. I like the way he presents. I agreed his presentation skills are on point, but some of the English that he said at the end there I wasn't quite tracking. Let's hear what Rocky has to say now. So Rocky's going to say something, I believe, and it's going to be completely different than the words used on the original cut.
I owe everything I got and my family has got to you.
Good start.
I'm like...
That's great. I like this as an acknowledgement that Apollo is responsible for Rocky's life, basically.
Yeah, 100%.
So here's an interesting question. Now that we're talking about this, had he picked another name, maybe he liked the name Spider Rico. Spider Rico sounds like a damn monster movie. Now, let's say Spider Rico got the chance, and Apollo would have destroyed him easily. There wouldn't have been any going the distance. He would have given him the 2 rounds or whatever, put on a show. Apollo goes on, never faces Rocky, never loses the belt to Rocky in part 2 because that timeline doesn't exist. Does Apollo still end up in the ring for this event here? Or what happens before this event? Would Apollo still be alive? Would Drago have killed Apollo had Rocky never beaten Apollo in part 2? What would the timeline have been?
It's hard to say anyone would dethrone Apollo, right? Like, maybe someone would have come by.
Yeah,
Clubber Lang probably would have lost to. Like, we have all said that Apollo's style is good for fighting Clubber Lang, assuming Apollo's not dumb. It goes for the knockout, which he could have made the same mistake he made with Rocky.
He might have.
Theoretical stuff, it's difficult to say, but
it is difficult.
It's a distinct possibility that Apollo would have still been champion at this time when Drago came by. But
remember, these Russian guys, they were like, Yeah, he's an old man. Is like it's foolish of him to come to the ring with such a young warrior. Like I wonder because in this universe, Apollo would have been that quote unquote old man. So if it wasn't Clubber that beats Apollo, it's somebody like Clubber in that sense.
I think if Apollo was champion, they would have fought him because it's like
he's the
that
champion.
looks good for them. Their guy comes over and beats what you guys consider to be your best fighter.
Interesting. So basically, if he was champion, there's a chance he still might have died in the ring, or had Clubber, let's say, beaten Apollo. It would have been Clubber that would have said, "Yeah, I'll take him on. I'll take on that."
Oh
fool.
my God, this shit talk Clubber would have done in that press conference would have been awesome. Clubber Lang Ivan Drago fight would be hilarious. Like I think Ivan Drago would beat him for sure, but it would be a real slugfest. Like that'd be fun to watch.
Yeah. Interesting thought. There's a part of me that thinks had Rocky never been picked from that book of boxers in part 1, Apollo would still be alive somehow. I don't know why I think that, but I think that's the case. Okay. So Rocky's getting much more choked up in this version than he did in the theatrical cut.
You gave me a break, but no one else would.
So it's another great line.
This speech is awesome. I'm like upset that this was not in the theatrical release.
Yeah, because he's saying too again, like, yeah, you gave me a break. Remember in part 1, screw you, creepo. Everyone was crapping on Rocky, and finally someone gives him a break, right? And it was Apollo. They gave him that break.
And it's saying something nice about Apollo that's not truly boxing related. Like, of course, the background, the context is boxing, but it's not how Apollo is like his altruism, or not really his altruism, but like his brainchild of this idea. Like this is something outside of being a fighter. This is like him being a promoter or whatever he's doing. He gave Rocky a break. He was there for Rocky when no one else would. It makes Apollo look like a good person. This is a great thing to say at his funeral. Like if I'm one of Apollo's kids, this is something I'd like to hear about my dad.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
He may have changed it the way it was in the theatrical version, because by this time he was I don't think Stallone wanted to show this kind of vulnerability, because he's about to go into some really sloppy crying talk like the Mickey death scene. At this time in 1985, he was like, no, I can't present myself this way because, I'm Rambo. I'm this movie star, and I can't afford to appear so vulnerable on screen. But as a man in his 70s looking back at this director's cut, he's probably like, no, this is the superior scene, and that's the one that should be in it.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, I like it.
You believed in me, but no one else would. I really loved you, man.
There you go.
It's a much better scene overall than the word salad.
Yeah, it's to the point. Look, you gave me a break, and I loved you, man. Like,
so I'm going to assume in Creed, when Marianne says she enjoyed his speech, she's talking about this.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's what I'm going to go with. And
yeah. My mom saw the director's cut of your speech. She really liked
it. And apparently, Dipper saw the director's cut. He told Sly, "Yo, I really dig the director's cut, man."
Yeah.
Dipper.
That's a deep cut there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now he grabs the belt again. What I find fascinating is that they do this much filming of different scenes. I find that kind of like these are two completely different scenes. So Sly was like, we're going to film a scene where I'm a blubbering idiot. Sorry, a blubbering man. Or we're going to film the scene to me doing the word salad. I find it interesting that both were actually filmed.
Yeah.
I'm not a big film guy. I don't know a ton about films, but I think that's
every scene.
No, I don't think so. But I think sometimes maybe you're torn on a certain scene. It's like maybe we should do it this way, we should do it that way. Well, let's film both and see how it actually looks. Yeah. That's just my guess. I don't know what I'm talking about,
but I think that's right, because in the director's cut, there are scenes that are vastly different than the theatrical.
Yeah.
So it just seems like that's kind of the way he shot this movie.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. For sure. This director's cut is so much better. Now we're going to get Adrian talking to Rocky. This is amazing. More Adrian in this movie, which is always good to have more Adrian.
I let it happen.
First thing
Oh my God, this is the best.
Kyle, he's like reacting in real time. All right. So now Rocky feels it's his fault, which is a little bit kind of off the mark a little bit, because in the director's cut, Sly did edit, at least I feel he did, I don't know if Jared, if you agree, where he did grab the towel to throw it, but it was too late. so to speak, because he
Yeah.
grabbed it in the director's cut. He grabbed it, was about to throw it, but that hit already happened, and he drops the towel. But
Also, like, he could have thrown it way earlier too, right?
yes, he could. He said it. Yeah, that's right. Between rounds, he goes to Apollo. Don't do this to me, man. Don't. Paul's like, well, don't do this to me. We talked about that. So you're right. Rocky could have fought harder between rounds to tell the ref we're done. We're stopping the fight. You can hate me all you want, Apollo, but we're stopping this. Yeah,
It's easy to say all this in hindsight too, right?
of course.
Because it could have gone the other way, where Apollo he got knocked out, but he was fine after, and he's like, I'm glad you didn't throw the towel. Like, I'm glad I got to, go down fighting instead of surrendering.
Yeah, he could have just been knocked out. It could have been the one punch
Yeah.
that knocked him out. Instead of a deathly punch, it was just a knockout punch. And then he wakes up in the hospital like, oh, well, you didn't throw in the towel, and I gave it my all, but I'm not fighting that guy again. And
Yeah.
like, come on, you're right.
Yeah.
But so he says, let it happen. Now he just say, no, you didn't, of course.
No, you didn't. It was no one's fault. You can't put all that blame on yourself. He was your friend. You would have done anything to protect him. You have to believe that.
So Rocky's like, I'll take that for now. Fair enough.
Why the hell did they take that out? That is a crime. That is a crime. That was such a great scene, because it's always good to have Adrian in there.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, you ready for more crimes?
You know what, guys? Could we do a
Yeah.
quick pause? I'm sorry, I gotta step out for a second.
You got to pee again?
I do. I always have coffee in the morning, and it hits me. It's just.
Next scene is all for you. So we'll just
I'll
wait.
do a bottle piss next episode.
Oh,
Just-
no.
Oh, yes.
We'll wait for Kyle there. So Jared, actually, while Kyle's going, why don't you plug your podcast and let people know what they can listen to that you've done in recent episodes and what they can look forward to on your podcast?
My podcast is The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. And we talk about nerd stuff. Me and my co-host are children of the 1970s. So we talk about the stuff we loved growing up, the stuff that we still love. We've been doing a series recently on franchise fatigue, about how we're starting to get tired of certain things. Marvel, Star Wars is in the conversation. It's been kind of fun to talk about. A lot of the content coming out lately, it's too much. It's not great. And it's just beating us into submission.
Rocky is funny this way because we've had 6 Rocky films, which in the realm of today's sequels, that's not very many, considering how many Marvel films are, how many Star Wars films are. 6 Rocky films isn't that
Thanks for
much.
your patience, guys.
Oh, it's all good. We're just doing a sidebar here. So if you think about 6 Rocky films over the span of 30, almost 40 years, that's actually not many films over one character.
No, it's a good pace. The Rocky series it was always kind of organic in that way, except for maybe part 5 that felt sort of shoehorned in there somehow. But
that's an odd film, but I can't wait to talk about that one.
Yeah, but it's Rocky. You don't get tired. Comes out. One.
You don't
every
get tired
3
of it.
years. And in those days, you got a sequel. Every 2 to 3 years if
Correct.
it was a successful series,
Right.
and that's not too much. But with Marvel, you're talking about 5 movies a year, and they all suck.
TV series.
And it's just like, what?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I also argue between if you just want to go with Star Wars, like just the films, the 3, let's say, put it this way, if you include the Creed films with Rocky, you've got 9 films.
Yeah.
If you include the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and the Ray trilogy, that's 9 films, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that the 9 Rocky films have less debate about quality than the 9 Star Wars films between the fandoms. Yes,
100%. 100%.
So that just tells you how good the Rocky films are. That there's like within the Rocky fandom, everyone 5. Fine, 5 is their. But you get. I feel like this way, and this is me, and I love Star Wars, but this is me on the Star Wars fans. The only film Star Wars fans like are Empire Strikes Back. I swear. At the end of the day, it seems to be the only film nobody craps on. Every other film is up for debate. It's almost the reverse. With the Star Wars films, every other film is Rocky 5, and the only film that's not Rocky 5 is Episode 5, ironically.
Yeah,
Empire Strikes Back. And then on the flip side, like the Rocky films, Rocky 5 is the whole Star Wars universe debate. Am I crazy?
Yeah. It's good. It's like a mirror image.
It's crazy.
5 is the one that everybody has wildly varying opinions on.
But even there are issues with it. That's the funny thing. And this is what I love about Rocky fans. And the fandom is unique this way. Even with their issues with part 5, people still watch it. And they still kind of love and adore. Like, they never there is the odd ones. Oh, I've never watched that film. Okay, but very few Rocky fans, like very few within the amount of millions of fans, will say I will never watch that film again. But there are Star Wars fans who refuse to watch certain films ever again.
Of course, but Rocky V is unique. Rocky V is an integral piece of the puzzle because you don't get to Balboa from Rocky IV. That's not a straight line.
It isn't.
He has to be brought low. He has to lose his money because Rocky Balboa is a sequel to Rocky V.
Yeah, Rocky V is absolutely essential. I like Rocky V more than most people, although I acknowledge in many ways it's a flawed film.
Sure.
But like the concept of Rocky V in general, of Rocky going back to the old neighborhood, had to happen. You could not keep going with Rocky living in a mansion. It'd be too boring. You have to go back to the old neighborhood in Philly. That's who Rocky is.
Rocky always needs a hill to climb.
Yeah.
And bringing him low is the only way that it was going to work.
Yeah, for sure.
3 things make that film better and would have been probably in the discussion for the best film of the series. I'm not even joking. Tommy Morrison lose the mullet. 2, Rocky went full R word. I don't know why he went full R word. He should not have gone full R word. And then 3, put the fight in the ring at the end. He acted so punchy. I don't know why he chose like the ultra punchy, but he did. Maybe to signify the brain damage, but I don't think he understands brain damage. It doesn't make you R word. So he should have like toned down a little bit of the brain damage because he wasn't that way in part 6, obviously. Anyways, I think if you could retroactively go back, put the final fight in the ring, because I like that story of teacher versus student. That's a wicked story. Who doesn't love that story?
Okay, my idea for the final fight in the ring is it's not an official sanctioned match. Like, say they're in the bar or whatever, and he's like, why don't we take this outside? But instead, they go back to that church where Rocky first fought Spider Rico, and they have a fight in that ring.
Like a Fight Club sense of a fight.
Yeah, man. Like,
that's like the medium. There you go. You get the street fight, but it's unsanctioned in the ring. They go put on gloves really quick. And you get Lou Filippo comes in, fly in Lou Filippo for that fight.
Well, equivalent substitute of Lou Filippo was no ref at all. Like, basically, there's no difference.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, that's great. That's funny. Okay. I mean, no, that's actually legit. I've never considered that, Kyle. Legit. I don't think anyone has ever said that before. I love it. We'll investigate that further when we get to part 5. Okay. Good. Now, Kyle, speaking of director's cut, speaking of you thinking, why did they get rid of that? You're going to lose your mind over this next scene.
I've seen this one, actually. I've looked up some of these scenes on YouTube, and I did come across this one. But I want to point out something just as an aside. I've been to this town hall here, like the city hall in Philly. Okay. This is like one thing I love about I'm from out west, right? Most buildings in my city are less than 100 years old. And this is one thing I like about going out to the East Coast. I like how it's a little older and you get stuff like this. Like it's cool. And when I was in my 20s, I went and visited Philly and some of the other East Coast cities. And Rocky was one of the reasons why I did it. Like, I don't think I ever would have visited Philadelphia if it wasn't for Rocky, but I had such a nice time there. And it was like, there's so much cool history. And I think the city of Philadelphia has benefited from the Rocky movies a lot.
No, good. I like it. All right. Okay, so you've seen the scene, but that's okay. We'll still go over it. There might be some listeners, obviously, who haven't seen it, and we'll, of course, discuss this right now. So this is him at the boxing committee people, I guess, whatever they are. Somebody starts saying, we've gone over these facts many times, Mr. Balboa, and then we'll continue.
Gone over these facts many times, Mr. Balboa. The answer is still the same.
Can't you change the rules?
Under present Federation rules, any fight between you and this Russian cannot, nor will it be allowed.
Let's be realistic. The Russian, he has not yet had one legitimate professional fight.
That's a good point, actually. When Rocky fought Apollo Creed, he had a professional record, albeit one that's not good as many of Apollo's peers, but all those guys were unavailable. That is a big difference there. You would think Drago would have to kind of fight his way up a bit more. Like, what gives him the right just to come in and fight the champ, having never fought professionally ever?
Now, he does bring up something here coming up, which is odd to me. Basically, he's going to tell Rocky, like, we need to wait to see what he does. It's a weird argument to see how many more people he's going to kill. I don't understand his reasoning here. Maybe you guys can help me understand his reasoning. Check it out.
The bout he had with Creed was a publicity stunt that backfired.
What you guys are really saying is you don't think I have a chance, do you?
Come on, what we're trying to say is, why tempt fate?
Okay, number one, stop yelling at me. I'll be like, why are you yelling at me? That's what Rocky should have said. Like, oh, it's rude, Adrian.
It's bad manners, ain't it, Adrian?
This guy sounds like that director for the Beast Aftershave. But then he goes on to say here, let's find out more about this man. Okay, what does this mean? I understand what he's saying. Like, they want to see what he's, I don't know, like.
Let's find out more about this man. Let's see what develops.
What does that mean? Let's see what develops. Like, how many more people he's going to kill in the ring first? Or
I see this as him saying, so this guy fight professionally. Let's see if what he did against Creed is a fluke or not, which obviously it wasn't. Like, if this guy's legit, maybe you'll fight him.
Yeah.
If this guy really is the killer or this guy is, like, whatever. Because, like, Creed hastily jumped into a fight and got killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Rocky's basically wants to do the same thing in these guys' mind. And they're saying, like, give it time. You're acting emotionally right now. Like, Rocky's emotions are leading him to fight here. And these guys, even though they're kind of, like, dicks about it, they're kind of being the more level-headed ones.
Basically saying, just cool off.
Yeah.
He's had one professional fight, and one man is dead.
Yeah, that's a perfect record of my books. That's going to count for some. Oh, wait, we don't like that. My apologies. Okay, sorry.
But if it prevents another fatality, it's well worth it. Of course.
That's the part I didn't understand. So he's saying, look, he's fought one guy and's killed him, but let's see what develops. I don't understand what they're watching to develop. Are they going to see more people die in the ring? I don't like who's going to be the unfortunate victim for, you know what I mean? Like, is he going to be 2 for 2 for deaths in the ring? I'm kind of confused about what they're looking to see develop. Is it just more bodies and body bags?
I'm also wondering who would be willing to fight Drago.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
I know Rocky wants to do it because he feels like responsible for getting Creed killed. Imagine if Drago has to start lower and he like fights a mid-level boxer. And it's like, oh, by the way, this guy is gigantic and he killed one of the best fighters of all time in about 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to comment on Louise's drug test results. That guy who was named Not Kyle, who emailed in the other day.
Oh, right.
Shared a link to an article that said basically drug testing in boxing is pretty bad. It's not really standardized, and it's like a lot of people get away with a lot of stuff there. So,
but that's fair to ask. So why not drug test him first before he fights? But okay, so this boxing guy here, we're going to say best way to boxing ban is one more. So he's saying like we can ban Drago if he has another accident. So let's just
Best way to boxing ban. Just one more accident.
That's not what he's saying. I think he's saying boxing itself being banned. People keep getting killed. Boxing, we should maybe not allow this to happen as a sport.
That would never happen. I don't know why that was put in, because there have been many injuries in the ring between wrestling, between MMA, and he didn't even say death. He called it an accident, did he?
Yeah, well, it's not really an accident. Like, he got punched in the head and died as a result of the hit. Like, it's an accident in the sense that it was unintended.
Right.
He didn't mean to kill him, probably. In the film Cinderella Man, Russell Crowe's character, Jim Braddock, fights Max Baer, this is all based on real boxers. Max Baer had killed 2 men in the ring.
There you go.
Prior to fighting Jim Braddock. That actually did happen. He did kill 2 men. Boxing's no joke. It's like when human heads are not supposed to be punched that hard repeatedly or something.
It's almost like that shouldn't be happening. I agree.
Yeah.
Especially of this magnitude.
Do you realize what kind of magnitude this is?
Excuse me.
That's a weird.
What kind of magnitude this is?
Are you stupid or something? You stupid moron! They're really yelling at him for being dumb as it's like Rocky. This is like, oh, I've had enough of this.
I think the context of this meeting is, and they said that we've gone over the facts many times, is this meeting's been dragging on, and Rocky's just not taking no for an answer, and they're getting frustrated with him.
I do like that there's like 7 or 8 men, and there is one woman in the room with them, but it turns out she's the secretary, which I love. I love that. The one woman there is actually she's taking the minutes for the meeting. She has no power over the decisions. I love that.
I wish Katie was here to comment about Rocky's clothing choices.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
He's wearing this sweater with a jacket. Mm-hmm. It looks bizarre to me, at least. But I was curious what she would think of it.
It's bizarre, but it pulls it off. This is definitely Miami Vice inspired.
Yes, Miami Vice.
You want to know what the bottom line is? You've got rules. We've got rules. Everybody's got to abide by those rules.
What? I don't know what that means either. What are Rocky's rules?
Code of the Warrior, right?
Code of the Warrior,
which apparently all these guys have to follow.
Yeah.
And then these guys have their own code, which is the
business
actual rules. And then he says, we got to all follow them.
Is he kind of saying, like, I know you're leaving because you're pissed off and you're going to do your own thing anyways, but we got to do our thing here. So
yeah.
We're
I'm okay with this scene not existing in the film.
This way, I think a lot of casual first-time viewers probably even just missed the whole idea that Rocky himself was the champion of the world, that he was truly holding the belt, like he was the one that one would have to challenge physically to get the belt from him. It's talked about, but it's not really stressed. And so when he loses the belt during that press conference, it's said very quickly in the newspaper article. It's like very glossed over that. So I think what this putting this back in Sly is just saying, just as a reminder, I've chosen to be disqualified as a champion to revenge my friend's death in the ring, so to speak.
Which I actually don't think is a big deal. Copper was supposed to be his last fight anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he's not like he was like set on having this long career, and all of a sudden he's making this huge sacrifice. Like, he's like, fine, I don't need the championship. Like, I've proved everything.
You know what I love right now is that we have George Washington Duke working with Union Kane right now, trying to get. They're only moments away from, like, they're only like a couple months away in this timeline.
Yeah, that's right.
Of challenging Rocky to a fight at the press conference after Part 4, because it takes place. The events of Union King and George Washington Duke take place a few months later. Is that weird?
If George Washington Duke existed at this time in this universe here, which he presumably does. You know George Washington Duke could make this fight happen somehow. He would grease whatever wheels had to be greased. Like, he would jump on this quickly. Like, there's no way he'd be plotting with Union Kane here. He would be trying to get Rocky. Now that Mickey's out of the way, yeah, he'd be trying to get a piece of this action for sure.
Rocky just walks out. I love it.
If I could just make a comment about this last scene real quick.
Of course. Yeah, go ahead.
So you see him by the door, and it reminds me of Rocky Balboa when he's having his conversation with the boxing commission. They tell him to piss off. Similarly, and in Rocky Balboa, he walks out the door, but then he comes back in. He was like, oh, you know what? I wish I would have done this when I saw them in 1985. I wish I would have turned around and told them what I really, you know what I mean?
Because I thought the same thing watching this director's cut, that he's actually wearing the same gray colored type suit too in both films.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yep. That's a good catch. I didn't think of that at all.
It might be the same jacket, not the same sweatshirt. But
yeah.
But I would argue, though, Kyle, you're right. He does do that because he's trying to get his license back to box. But I would just argue Rocky at this point doesn't care about the belt. That's why he's leaving. Because fine, take the belt away.
True enough.
Yeah. But no, you're right about that. I think that's what Sly would probably say right now if we were to ask him. He said, well, yeah, but Rocky doesn't care about the belt. He just, fine, I'm done. You guys are going to take my belt away, whatever. All right. Any final thoughts before we get to the answers of the trivia?
No.
Now, just as a reminder, I do not know the answers until I officially look. Yes, he only wants the artist, according to Rocco's answer.
Oh, good. Thank God. I'm curious what the song is called, though. I made a guess of what the song's called, but I'm not sure.
I just know it's a Christmas song, of course.
I know the name.
Oh, Jared, please. What's the name?
It's the Chipmunk song.
No, but
what's called the Chipmunk song?
By Alvin and the Chipmunks.
The Christmas song is called?
It's called the Chipmunk song.
Wow.
100%. If you don't believe me, you can Google it.
The way you're staring me down, Jared, I wouldn't even offend you by typing out what looks like Kyle is.
I have this album on vinyl since I was like a kid.
Yeah.
Wow, really, eh?
Yeah.
Look at you. Okay, that's why you're so confident. When I gave this, I wish people could see the YouTube version of this if they go back and watch the YouTube version. When I gave this question, Jared just kept looking at the camera. This was Jared, so I gave the question. This was Jared's response to the question. Didn't even blink, didn't move. He just eyeballed. He was like eyeballing me to the camera. That's all you've got? That's all you've got? All right. Question: who says? Now let me do the line as it's read. Don't go too fast. You're gonna get out of focus.
That was good.
Thank you. Oh wait a minute.
It was Rocky Jr. that said that.
Rocky Jr.
sorry,
said
Jr.
That. He goes,
my bad.
Ooh, yeah, focus.
Did you put Rocky or Rocky?
I put Rocky. I put Rocky Jr. My brain, what's the word when you combine the two things? My brain combined the two that, look, I'm sick. I'm going to blame it on being brain fog right now. I know Rocky, of course, does
yeah,
but that's right. The kid tells, of course, now brain fart. All right, see, I'm on.
I admire your honesty, Ryan.
yeah.
Well, I'm almost honest to a fault. Conflate. Thank you, Louise. I conflated the two. Rocky only does the sound effect, not the. This is where I hopefully get some points back. What color are Drago's gloves for the fight against Apollo? I put yellow.
I think they're red.
I put red.
Okay, I suck, boy.
What does the answer say? Does it say red?
It's red, isn't it?
Yeah, I gave away by saying that I suck.
Okay, I want to just make a side comment. I hate white boxing gloves.
That's what Apollo had, right? He had white.
Yes. Yeah, Apollo had the white gloves. And there's this fight, Anthony Joshua. He lost to Andy Ruiz. Ruiz is like this Mexican guy who's like obese. Joshua was wearing these white gloves too, I think. I feel like white gloves are just a curse.
Interesting. I've mentioned this before in the show, those who listen to these episodes, of course, that when it comes to like colors and stuff, my brain doesn't remember things like that very well. I blew that Rocky line. Why did I think Rocky said that? I think I just know he does the sound at the end. I thought to me he was saying, if I move too fast, I'm going to go out of focus. Ooh, but of course,
that's what happened to me.
Says
I'm
that.
out of focus right now.
Oh, you went too fast. Well, we're almost at the end, anyways, Jerry. There you go. You came back. Okay. All right. True or false? Here we go. Rocky picks up and throws Drago after one of the rounds when they're fighting.
I put true.
True.
He picks him up and throws him to the ground like a wrestler.
Like a wrestler.
Yeah. That's right. It is true. Lastly, what did Paulie want for his birthday?
Sports car for my birthday.
Sports car. That's right.
On the walking trash can.
All right, so Jared 5 out of 5, Kyle 5 out of 5, Ryan 3 out of 5. I am like so far behind. This is ridiculous.
Jared, you're supposed to take a dive, man. What the hell are you doing?
You know what? I'm in trouble.
I literally am playing now just for fun. I'm not playing to win. That's for sure.
I will mail you a participation ribbon when this is over.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, Jared's already plugged his podcast, but again, check out the Hyperspace podcast in the 25th century. Jared, thank you so much for coming on and filling in for Katie.
Anytime, gentlemen. It's always a pleasure. I love doing this show. Love listening to the show. Anytime you need me.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, Jared, it's good to see you again.
Yes, sir. Same, Kyle.
Appreciate your contribution.
It's always fun chatting with you guys.
With that, this episode is over.
I didn't hear no bell.